Streaming is on.
I think it worked.
All right. Well, for the benefit of the stream, it is the September meeting of the Linux users group for Western North Carolina. And we're going to start with Dan presenting on the results of the survey that he commissioned.
Yeah. Okay. Let me go ahead and start the screen share. And let's see here. Let's do the entire screen share. All right. So first off, can you see the live Lime survey screen?
Yes.
Okay. This is the application. I'll try to do this as quickly as possible because I don't want to take up too much time. But this is the Lime survey application that I spun up using Docker Compose. And this is not, I'm not paying for this. If I were to use SurveyMonkey to do the survey I sent out to you guys a month ago, month of August, it would have cost me $300.
Wow.
This cost me $0. And so I went ahead and spun this up. It's still running, by the way, up on the virtual private server in Atlanta, but I wanted to show it to you. All right, so let's get to the survey. All right, so I sent out, can you see the survey result here?
Yeah.
Screen? Okay. I sent out 29 surveys through the Lime survey application and got, out of those 29 surveys, I got 16 results, 16 respondents, I guess is the best way to put it, which means it's a 55% return on the survey, which is a majority, and I'm happy with that. So I guess the reason I said that is because the results here should reflect the majority of what people think. And this is kind of important. So, and I was kind of surprised at the results, to be honest. All right. So the first question, there were 20 questions in this survey, and let me hide this. There's 20 questions in this survey, and let me go through them here real quick. First question was, what ideas do you have that might help improve the group experience? And as you can see from the graph that I drew up here, we got 8 no's and 8 yeses. So they were kind of evenly matched. But here are some of the actual respondents' comments. This was totally anonymized, by the way, this survey, so that nobody knows what anybody said. And that's what I wanted to do, because when I didn't have it anonymized, nobody wanted to really say what they thought, because they didn't want people to know who it was that said what. So this is anonymous. So that's more open. All right. So basically there were like 8 different things that people thought about that might be helpful. One of them is more involvement in presenting, which I think is important. Socialization should not be the general focus of the meeting, was one of the other ones. We need to recruit younger members to join the group. I think that's very important, and most people did. Occasional in-person meetings would be nice, is another suggestion. There should be a list of questions submitted by members to discuss prior to a scheduled meeting. In other words, an agenda. There should be a separate time allotted in the meeting to discuss performance issues, hardware issues, network problems, software security concerns, etc. 7th item was there should be more recognition for those who help. And the 8th item is we should have an unrecorded social meeting and record only if presentations are given. So that was the general consensus of that question. Anybody want to comment along the way? Go ahead. Let me go on to question number 2. Question number 2 was, if a physical venue with or without online streaming capability could be located for our group within an hour driving distance, would you be willing to move away from the current Jitsi only meeting arrangement? And surprisingly, the majority said yes. So the majority views that if a physical venue were available, they would rather do that than an online meeting. Now, by the way, this survey was sent out to not only people who meet regularly on the platform, like the guys that are here today, but this was sent out to folks who never join the meeting. So you have to keep that in mind as well, or who rarely join. All right, so this was kind of a surprising result here. Question number 3 was, would you be willing to support the group by volunteering to help set up or tear down at physical venues or financially support the group on a one-time recurring basis if need arises? And again, majority said yes, they would be willing to volunteer to do that. Question number 4, and this was in 4 parts, I think 3 parts. On a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being poor to 5 being exceptional, how would you rank your current level of satisfaction in group meetings that are currently held each month compared to similar groups you may belong to now or that you have belonged to in the past in the categories shown? All right, so the first category here is group socialization. Kind of taken aback by the fact that the majority was no answer. And 5 people, or there were not 5 people, there were a majority here, 4 people said 5, which means it ranked close to the exceptional or exceptional. 4 was a little less than exceptional, 3 less than that. The majority was kind of a neutral for group socialization. So the result here indicates that there's neutrality in the question about whether you rank your current level of satisfaction in group socialization. How do you rank it? It's neutral. Okay. Next group was, how do you rank that 1 to 5 in your level of satisfaction for helping you to better understand Linux? Again, the majority was no answer, which is discouraging. Again, neutrality was the theme here. So the majority of people, 5, said they were neutral on that particular category. On the category of introducing you to open source products or applications, again, the majority was no answer, which is, again, disheartening. Beyond that, it looks like it was a tie between 2, which is next to poor, and 4, which is a little bit below exceptional. All right, so you can see where that ranks. And then the 4th category was career enhancement. So how does your current level of satisfaction in group meetings from 1 to 5 as far as career enhancement go? It's very discouraging. Looks like 3 people said their level was 2. 1 person said their level was 3. 2 people said their level was poor. And again, 10 people said no answer. So it seemed like nobody wanted to really respond much to that question at all. All right, question number 5. What meeting frequency would be best for you that would make you more likely to attend meetings on a regular basis? The majority had no answer to that for the weekly preference. Only 1 person said they would be willing to meet weekly, which is not surprising. Next question was, how about bi-weekly? Again, no answer for 13 people. Only 3 people said they would be willing to meet on a bi-weekly basis. All right, and so monthly basis, majority said yes. So that sounds like everybody's happy with our monthly meetings with 4 no answers. And then how about quarterly? 16 people said no answer. Nobody wants a quarterly meeting. So that's probably not surprising to most folks. Let's move on to the next question. What topics would you be most interested in learning more about in scheduled meetings? And I broke it out into 5 different categories. Beginner topics, which basically deal with installation and basic Linux commands. Intermediate topics, which deal with like bash scripting and sysadmin and server. Advanced topics, which would be things like kernel development, security, Kubernetes, Ansible, networking, and then specific distro topics like talk about Fedora, Debian, Alma, Antix, Arch, etc. And then the last one, troubleshooting topics, common Linux issues. And out of that survey, the majority said they would like to talk about specific distributions, with the next level up being troubleshooting. And the rest fall in here, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So below the troubleshooting, people would like to see advanced topics, which would be like kernel development, security, Kubernetes, Ansible, networking. But the majority said we would like to talk about specific distributions. So you might want to consider that, think about that. Next question, what style would you prefer online or in-person meetings to be conducted in? And this was a surprise to me. The majority of the people said they would like to have lightning talks. And lightning talks, if you don't understand that term, it's a short presentation given by people on various topics. So somebody just has a short presentation they'd like to give. Jump in and give it. And that seems to be what most people would like to see. Beyond that, the next level would be just open discussion. Moderator picks the person to do the presentation and then have open discussion. So, for instance, it's the status quo basically, because Brent does that now. Brent goes around and picks the person to talk about their Linux experience next. And so that's what the group wants. Lightning talks first and then open discussion, the way it's been done right now. Next question. Would you be willing to attend a quarterly meeting devoted solely to addressing hardware software problems, where you could bring those into the meeting and get them resolved? And the majority said yes. They would attend a quarterly meeting to do just that. So we might want to consider that. Next question was, what time of day would be easier for you to attend a meeting? Looked like the majority wanted to keep it the way it is, noon hour. All right. Next question, what day of the week would be best for you to attend meetings? And this is the day of the week. The day of the week was Saturday, so status quo here again. Everybody's happy with Saturday, so I guess that's what we probably should keep it at. Next question, should all meetings be recorded or live streamed? The answer to that was predominantly either as appropriate, which is basically what we do now. So we live stream it as we feel it necessary, like what we're doing now. Or if it's a presentation, yes, definitely, we probably want to live stream it.
Does no answer here suggest that they don't want it recorded, or is that just
no?
simply
It just
that
means
was
they
skipped?
it means they just didn't respond.
Okay, so we can't take it to mean
No.
one thing or another.
No.
Thanks.
And two said recorded and one said live stream, but the predominant answer was either as appropriate. Next question was, should only presentations be recorded? Here, 6 no respondents. Majority that beyond that said yes, only presentations should be recorded. 4 said no. So I don't know how we can take that. The fact that the majority didn't respond, or the equal amount didn't respond, is kind of troubling, because it means they don't really care. Maybe they just don't care to respond. That's the way I perceive it. And you might perceive it differently, but kind of a lackadaisical attitude here, with no answer being up there with the yes answers. So I don't know how to really take this. What do you think, Brent? Anybody?
I'm a fan of someone not shouting an opinion if they don't have one.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think, just take no answer is no answer and focus on the folks that did answer.
Okay. All right. Well, the folks that did answer said that the only presentations should be recorded then. All right. Next question. Should our meetings be live streamed publicly or live streamed privately and then published publicly? And I guess folks understand what that means. Here again, we got 6 no answers. And the majority said privately live streamed, not publicly live streamed. If you publicly live stream it, that just means you open it up to the public from the beginning. Anybody can jump in and join the meeting as the meeting is going on, and the public is aware that the meeting is being presented. Maybe we don't want that for security reasons, so the majority said privately, then live stream publicly. All right. The next question is, what do you think about the team advertising our group on local college student union centers, message boards, local newspapers, such as Mountain Express, Asheville Citizen Times, for membership recruitment purposes, which I think is very important. Most of the people responded to that particular question. There were 12 respondents and 4 people rather who did not respond. And here are the results of that. They said, like, good idea. If we keep streaming, why not tell non-local people about it too? Sounds good. As long as it's easy to do and inexpensive, was the one person's response. And then here's another person who said, okay, so who's the team to do that? I wonder how large the group list is at present and the extent that posting and notices are active. There are 29 people right now, or 29 members. It says 30 on the group, but there's 2 people that are the same, myself and then one other, which is myself as well. So I can't really include that. So there are 29 active members. I think advertising our group would be a great thing, or a great idea, as one person said, as it would help spread the word and more likely be able to help gain new members. Another person said, seems fine. Yes, help get new members too with new ideas. My concern about the current makeup of the group is median age of this population is pretty high. It's probably around 70 plus. And so if we don't get new members and younger people like Leander, people like Kevin, or younger, or women too, we need to get females in there, I think. We're going to age out, and the membership's going to just drop off, and the group's going to dry up. So we need to start recruiting, or think about recruiting anyway. All right. So next question. Would you be willing to pitch in to pay for a weekly ad to be placed in one of the or more local newspapers? Majority said no. They would not be willing to do that. All right. Next question. Should we drop the Asheville from our group name, as outsiders may infer from it that group membership is limited solely to the Asheville area? The majority said no, keep the Asheville name in the group. So I guess based on that, we should keep it as Western North Carolina Linux Users Group Asheville and not drop Asheville. I guess in our advertisement, we should just say that the group is not limited to Asheville and move on. All right. Would you be interested in hearing presentations or talks from outsiders, individuals who work with the with Linux and open source, who are experts in the field? And a resounding yes, with only 3 people saying no. I think that's a good response. What topic category interests you more for presentations that are given? And so here we had 9 people who said they would like to see open source and general topics for presentations. And surprisingly, only 2 people said they wanted just Linux specific presentations. Open source specific topics, only 1 person responded with that they wanted to see that. And then had 4 no responses here. All right. So it looks like the majority would like to see open source in general topics. That's a good response, I think. Should presentations be voluntary or assigned? And what I meant by that question is, should someone like the moderator assign an individual on a month-by-month basis to say, research this topic and bring a presentation next month for this? Or should it just be voluntary? So somebody just raise their hand and say, I'll do this. Majority said they would like to keep it voluntary. So they don't want to be picked, I guess, in that And the last question was, would you be willing to research a subject that you may not be totally familiar with outside your comfort zone and present it to the group in one of the meetings if this was assigned to you? This way you'd be willing or learning something new for the meeting in order to be able to present it to the to others and would be likely to learn from it as well. And the majority said yes, they would be willing, with 6 saying yes, but 6 again with no answer, and a close 5 saying no. So looks like the majority would like to be willing or would rather be willing to research our subject if asked to do so and bring it in. So I think that's a good response there. So, all right. So those are the 20 questions and the responses. I will send a copy of this out to everybody so that you have it, so that if you can want to go back to it later and refer to it, you can. But any comments about the results of the survey?
Well, first of all, thanks, Dan, for doing this. This was very informative. I made a lot of notes here about what this means to me. It's good to get feedback that, we don't really need to change the timing of our meeting, but I know it's come up several times before, and I think you're right. It's like we focus a little too much on the people who do come to the meeting, so you get a bit of a bias about that. Yeah, that what we're doing as far as the meetings is working. We know in some cases, some folks like Pat Barnes has been pretty noisy about that this format doesn't work for them, that they really do miss the in-person meeting. And I do think we can mix it in. It is going to require work. It's going to have to require finding a place, and we have to decide some things like do we need to make it presentation friendly? Do we need to make it such that we have a screen that we can project to? I do have some hardware that I acquired back in the COVID days when we didn't know that this was a permanent thing, when we thought that maybe there would be hybrid meetings. In fact, there was a single such meeting in the library after we had lost our place to live. So we need to figure out, like, how do we want to do this? There have been a lot of, I think if it's going to be sort of a more of a convivial meeting, then just to satisfy the needs for socialization and people to see people in person, a place with food and drink, of course, is a great idea, but those places aren't necessarily the best places to present. So we need to decide what our priorities are as far as an in-person meeting, and then select a place based upon that. Because doing one or the other is pretty easy. Doing both is hard. We lost our sweet spot of Earth Fair. Unfortunately, it's doesn't seem like it's something like that is readily available where you can do all the things. I don't think we realized how good we had it because it was sort of the perfect size, format, place, etc. But if let's talk about what do we want? Do we want a place to present at, or do we want a place to meet? Or like if we want to try to combine it, what is the what side should we fall on? Because that's where we struggled when we were looking for a meeting place. And it does sound like we don't want a ton more structure, but we want a bit more structure. People want meetings, but they don't want to be told to do people want presentations. They don't want to be told to do presentations. That's pretty much expected. I'm not surprised by that at all. But I think we do need to lean on folks to say, hey, you don't need to be the expert in X, but if you have any interest in X, please present on X, because that's how we're going to get interesting stuff in front of us. So that's something I'll definitely take. I know I've taken a very light hand in any direction, and I've always felt that my role in this has just been largely coordination of the meetings, but I really appreciate, Dan, your more aggressive role in sort of evangelism as well as the the introduction of at least somewhat more structure and the facilities of the meetings.
Thank you.
But I'll stop rambling on and let other folks respond.
Well, Brent, I have a suggestion for a potential place to meet. I don't know how convenient it would be for the majority of the people in here, but I just came back from a Drupal camp, which was held on the campus of the University of North Carolina at Asheville. And they have, for the alumni, they have 4 or 5 rooms in the Student Union Center, which are excellent rooms for connectivity, for like laptops, for presentations that are given with screens and things like that. And I thought about contacting the UNCA and asking them if that could be something that might be available for our group on a monthly basis. Could we like reserve a room at, like an hour before and a couple hours afternoon on Saturday, the first Saturday, and see what they thought about that. And if it's going to cost us anything, I'd let you guys know. But I was really happy with the spaces that we had in that Drupal camp. And it looked like it'd be perfect for our group.
Steve had suggested such back again when we were looking for a new home. And we were going to actually try it out for a meeting, but that, of course, that was, before COVID shut everything down completely. So that meeting didn't happen as such. And, that's when we went fully online. But yes, as I recall, that was we were really looking forward to seeing how that would work out for us as far as a meeting space, because we had done one meeting in the library off along Shoals Road, forget the name of the branch, and it was fine, but again, it wasn't the best location. It was okay for presentation, but you can't bring in food. I guess maybe you could. No, I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that was one of the complaints was that
Yeah.
they didn't want any food or drink in there.
Yeah.
But going back to pre-COVID days, does anybody remember was it a DEF CON group? Does anybody remember that?
Yes, I was part of that group.
You were part of that. Is that still active?
It is not. It has not been in a long time. And their meeting place wasn't something that was would have worked for other groups. It was sort of like a special arrangement thing, I think.
Yeah, I think
that being said,
wasn't it at the Skyland Fire Department or something?
Yes, yeah, and maybe that is something that would work out. I don't know, but I don't ever recall. It's been so long, but I don't ever recall thinking, yeah, let's see if that would work as an option.
Okay.
So there must have been some reason it was off the table.
Must have been. Okay. Well, I'll get that out of my brain.
I was thinking UNCA would be good because I am an alumnus of the campus, and that might give me a foot in the door to be able to use that space or those spaces. And you might rotate, of one of 4 rooms there in that Student Union Center. And I don't know if folks have been to the campus recently, but that Student Union Center is almost brand new building. And it's very beautiful. It's nice, spacious and comfortable.
I haven't been there much since they kicked me out. So
I know when we were discussing this, it was, as far as location, it was generally considered. And again, if this is an occasional thing, I think this shifts the math a lot. Yeah. But it was considered to be a bit far north to be ideal, given that the population center of Asheville is sort of weighted a little bit south of Asheville, and our membership was as well. That being said, it works great for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. But again, if it's not every meeting thing, I think that really just isn't that important.
Yeah, I mean, some folks drive as far as to Greenville, South Carolina, to go to meetings like this from Asheville. So that's an hour. That's a pretty good drive to go to a meeting for a couple of hours.
Rusty here. I've got a couple of questions. Am I heard?
Yeah.
Okay. I think there was that important response where the term "as appropriate" was used, which had to do with whether or not to live stream, which is one variation of enduring content, or live stream, you might say, is both enduring comment and it is capture, or it defines, different means of the context when it's captured. And so I think that our main problem is simply to know when we want to use time just purely socially, which is obviously we want to engage in social time when there is no prepared content, but whenever there is prepared content, we want to formally enable the prepared content to become enduring content. And so it seems to me, even when we choose to go round robin and a meeting that's just a social meeting, we also need a certain amount of protocol in how to accomplish that. So on the question side of it, just first in terms of understanding how we capture enduring content, I wanted to ask Dan what it really is, the protocol. If one of the questions asks whether we should be public or private live stream. Live stream means the context of participation, if I understand it correctly. And then, so the answer to that was that the acquisition of enduring content should be privately obtained, at least because it includes the participants that are sort of a recorded audience. So it's both the presentation that has, shall we say, protocol, and the audience that also has protocol. We've decided private. But then the other thing that I don't understand is the form of enduring consumption. It seems to me that consumption can be both private consumption, or at least sitting behind some form of privacy, which might be a token or identification as some sort of authentication. Could be very minimal authentication, but it could be obscuration is another variation of authentication, you might say. So Dan, can you speak to what is the ideal model? You have done more enduring content than anyone else in the group. What is the model that you see both, okay, it's private for the participation to acquire content, but what is the ideal consumption model for content, which gets into public exposure, et cetera?
Well, let me address the survey. There were two questions that you were referring to. One question was whether we should privately live stream our meetings and then publicly publish them, okay? Or should we publicly live stream the meeting? By publicly live streaming, it means open it up, you go live, and the public is then seeing it as it happens, okay? And then they can jump in and participate, perhaps, and join the group. And we may not want that. And it looked like the survey said they don't want that. What they want from the survey, the group said they would rather privately live stream, which is what we do now, okay, and then publicly publish the live stream after the fact. so that you don't see the meeting as it happens.
Right.
The next question was with regard to, I'm trying to get my thoughts together here. This had to do with what part of the meeting should be live streamed and what part should not. And it looked like from the survey, what I inferred from the results was that they thought that the meeting should be live streamed as appropriate, which means whether we felt that the presentations should be live streamed and then the socialization not, or both, or the other way. In other words, the presentation should be and the socialization should not. So it's still kind of a, toss of the coin, but it looked like from the results, they thought it would just be as appropriate. Now, you asked me about what I thought the model should be. And this is just my personal opinion. Personally, I believe that if we have a presentation, it should always be live streamed or recorded. And that's so that not only should the results of that presentation be available to the people who attended the meeting, but to those who can't for whatever reason, or for those who might come later on who didn't even know the meeting was held. Because our presentations are put up on our YouTube channel for the WNCLUG, and somebody could come along a year from now and see a presentation like the one I gave in August, and that would benefit from it. Okay, so I think that presentations should always be recorded either in a live stream version or manual recording and then uploaded. As far as socialization goes, my personal opinion is I really don't have an opinion, to be honest. Some people might be concerned about what they say in the meeting that's being recorded and then gets published to the world to see. I really control what I say for the most part, so I don't care. But there might be others who might slip or something. And I really don't want to get to the point where we have to video edit everything and edit out parts where people say, please take that out because I didn't mean to say that kind of thing. So my model would be to always record presentations, and then for socialization, it's kind of up to the folks.
Does anyone feel particularly strongly about the benefit of recording the back and forth? I'm not speaking about responses to a presentation, because obviously that can be as valuable as the content of the presentation, because the back and forth, the Q&A. Right. But when we're just simply going around the room, does anyone ever go back and watch those, or do they watch those to sort of satisfy the meeting itch when they missed a meeting, or what? Let me know how you feel, because I've always kind of had a leaning towards not recording the back and forth, because I don't see how anyone outside would be particularly drawn to that content. Maybe they would, I don't know, but I wouldn't. And I'm just curious if folks do find that valuable.
Well, I will say this. I mean, I have had an occasion when somebody brought a topic up in what they were working on or had an interest in for the month. And I did go back and watch it because I wanted to see what they did. I mean, so it's those occasions where somebody could bring up something that's very interesting and it's not recorded. And so it's lost. And so, I'm a little concerned about that. But is that an off chance thing, or is that something that happens all the time? I agree with you, Brent. I mean, is that something that people would really be interested in or not? And so kind of I'm on the fence about that, I guess.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Getting back to the other part of the equation, that is the social, the other part of the paradigm is the social aspects of the meeting. I really feel like if we don't explicitly transition away from recording at the right times, then we alter, to me, we alter some of the spontaneity that naturally I like in our group. And if you go to any live meeting, you not only congregate before the meeting begins, there's all sorts of breakout and sort of little side discussions that generate afterwards, and you can have those. And so when we go online, we can't just have the live streaming. We need to have a sense and do polling whenever we may be at the end of a period of gathering enduring content, and we're ready to go into that informal mode. And we'll harm either one if we need to go into informal mode and we keep the live stream going. I think it affects the quality of the material, and Dan has said that he doesn't want to be having to edit out things that are actually beneficial in the spontaneous world, but maybe not beneficial for enduring content. And so I think also at the beginning of the meeting, even if there is a prepared content, it's good to have what might be called lightning introductions of who is in the audience. And during those lightning introductions, and I mean really fast, I can keep on going and I can be permanent lightning if you get me going. But the whole point is, if we go around and do lightning introductions, then each person can say, I have a need for presenting such and such a problem that I'm having, or such and such a thing that I have discovered that I'm elated about. And so by polling everyone at the beginning of the meeting, we can get an agenda either for a round robin style meeting, or even to know what additional content we might have to attend to after a prepared meeting has been presented and the Q&A of that has been completed. So I think what Brent is doing is equally important. You know, the moderator role and getting an ad hoc and spontaneous agenda out of the audience, which can be done by polling.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that, and the reason that kind of spurred me on to do the survey is I'm discouraged by the fact that we go for month to month to month to month. We can go for like a streak of like 4 months with no presentations. And that's not good because you don't learn from it, you know, and, or that we, you know, and then we have had times when we've had one presentation, and the next month we have a presentation, and then we don't have one, and then we have a presentation. So it seems to be sporadic. And I was kind of looking for more order there. And I'd like this group to not just be socialization, but also education too. I mean, and by that, I mean, if you want to get more people to join and get in and grow the group, then it's going to have to benefit them some way. And I'm not sure socialization is going to do that. Presentations might, but socialization's not. And but then again, socialization is important as well, you know, for the group. I don't know how to put that in any better language.
Yeah, I think socialization keeps us really tight, but you know, we're not going to bring folks in without, you know, something more than this. I mean, the tight knit group that we are sort of puts a fence around us.
Right.
we'd be a lot more welcoming if we could focus on just the content a good part of the time.
Right. And I would not like to drive people away from the group either. I mean, that's not the point. If we drop socialization altogether, most of the people are going to drop out because they come for that too. So I don't know how we can do that, how we can handle that.
Pete's being all polite and raising his hand. What you got to say, Pete?
I don't know how to unraise it, but anyway, if I remember correctly, going back a number of years when we used to meet at Firestorm or the food place in person, we had a lot more people show up than we do on our Zoom meetings.
Right.
Does anybody else remember it that way?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it was just because the socialization. The other thing I really enjoyed about our in-person meetings was sometimes after the meeting, it would last longer than the meeting itself because you could bring up all kinds of stuff, bring things in, bring your broken computer in, and somebody might be able to tell you what to do to get it going again. And that was a really big draw for me. So that was my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also, if you invest in the drive, I think not only do you not have the distractions of your home office and family and whatever you got going on. You've made the intentional drive to get there, and I think that puts everybody more in the mindset of they're in, and they're engaged.
Right.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Some people used to bring their families, their wife and their kids, I remember. Mainly, I brought my wife because she wanted to go shopping when we were downtown in Asheville. She would spend a few minutes when the meeting would get started.
In-person meetings too encourages you to participate more, I think, as well, because when I went to Drupal camp at the campus of UNCA, I was allowed to stand up in front of the group and talk for 15 minutes about something. And I didn't have a problem doing that. In fact, I wanted to do it more than I would if I were in an online meeting. So it kind of encourages you to step up and do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure other people need to speak up too.
Well, another thing to consider is that we probably need a certain balance of even if we can get a venue, it seems to me that the online is valuable for at least claiming to be Western North Carolina LUG, because it's Kevin and I think others have spoken to how online was actually beneficial, even though it was unintended or a derivative of necessity. But it does allow more inclusion. So I think some of what I think we've got protocol things that we can refine to both be a social meeting and to consistently recognize the participation of each person in an online setting. And then we've got the protocol to balance that with the purpose of the meeting, whether the given meeting is partially or totally prepared presentation, or whether it's round robin and sequential sharing. I do think that the sequential sharing has been a real, it's both a glue, it's a social experience, but it also has been very informative. And I think some things are discovered by being able to do the round robin. So, I think our meetings will need to alter between prepared and round robin social sort of sharing. And also that if we get a physical venue, I think we will also need or we should rotate between online and physical meetings. Just keep it mixed up.
Okay. Well, I never do anything. I never accomplish anything really big. Sometimes I stumble around and accomplish things, but I never accomplish anything big without stating a goal. So I think if we state a goal for presentations, we'll at least come closer to hitting that goal.
Yeah,
So how about we set a goal to try to, for now, at least have every other meeting have presentation content.
that'd be good.
I'm not sure if we're going to call this one as presentation content. It feels extremely worthwhile. But that being said, let's set a goal to have next month have a presentation. If no one else comes up with anything, I could cobble together something. But I would. I don't have a clear idea what that would be. So if anyone has anything floating around in their head, and again, I think part of the problem is feeling that your content is worthwhile. Like one of the presentation ideas, one of the things that people said they want is just a presentation on different distros. That's easy, you know, show us around your distro, show us what you like about the distro, show us what your challenges are about your distro. Any one of us can do that. So if anyone wants to stand up and say, hey, I'm a big fan of X, and let's talk about X. I'm not talking about X Windows. People,
or Elon Musk.
Yeah.
ain't
No,
nobody a
don't go
fan of
there.
that. So, can we remove that? Okay. The lost my place there. But yeah, if someone wants to do that, say that now, or think about it and come back to me. Otherwise, I'll say that next month I'm doing something, and that will at least kick us off. And then we can have that goal going forward of at least every other. Does anyone have a problem with that? Does that sound like too
No.
much, or
I think that's a great
not
idea.
lofty enough of a goal?
No, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think for certain things, if they're to happen, we need to have either a goal or a champion for it. I don't think we can really have a clear goal as far as meetings unless we know what that's going to look like and where it's going to be. So is anyone willing to, the UNC has come up a couple times now. So is Dan, are you willing to see that through? Or
Yeah.
I know you're already doing a lot. So
No, I mean, I'd be willing to approach the university and ask them if we could have a space in the alumnus area.
yeah. And I think maybe we should also look in the other direction, because that's certainly a presentation focused area. I certainly, am open to, and this could be an evening thing. If that works for folks, to have a place where we can do, a meal or coffee or, light drinks. I don't think I can. I literally think I can't drink anymore, but I have no problem with such a venue. But yeah, any sort of more of a convivial type of space. So if anyone has any ideas, if we are not presenting at all, if we're not going online at all, that opens up just about anything. If we want to make it more of a hybrid, then we're going to have to be a little more picky. I know Panera has been suggested for something where we could do something that is a little more hybrid if we're not presenting. But that sort of space maybe we should look into as well and get a feel of what people like and don't like about those two different types of options. Does anyone want to look into a convivial space for meetings? You guys need to give me space here. Stop raising all your hands all at once. All right.
Crickets.
I will look into a convivial space for meetings then.
All right. I'll look into the UNC thing and you can look into that.
Okay. All right. I think we still have plenty of time to go around the room unless somebody else wants to speak on this topic some more.
Well, Brent, if we're going to go around the room, could we go around the room to find out something of the scope of time that each person might have need of for one topic or another?
Okay.
Intros first, and then do the real pass of those that. I mean, you can do just a round robin, but a quick what I've referred to as a lightning, a one pass just to formulate what are some of the potential topics.
Okay. Rusty, go.
Okay. Well, Rusty Maynard, I'm in East Asheville. I have a little bit of need on some weirdness that I had on my boot up of 1804 Kubuntu. So I'll be wanting to ask the group about that and how to deal with that problem. It's a disabled 1804 installation, and I don't know what's going on with it.
Rusty, that raises a good thing, that a question that I did mention. Troubleshooting sessions absolutely could consume an entire meeting.
Yes.
And I think that's a great idea. Is that something? There are some things that can only be done easily in person, but do we think that those scheduled meetings, so if we schedule a troubleshooting session meeting, is that best done online, or is that best done in person so that we can do those in person, like, fix your bias and things that you can't present on?
What I just suggested that I have some questions is how I would use a little bit of time if it's available, but I don't need to bother the group with it. So that's why I was saying I just want to describe that I have that little bit of agenda for today, but it can yield to any other more interesting topics. I just as readily hear from others. So
Can I weigh in on
let's hear from those others.
that? Can I weigh in on that response?
Surely.
Okay. The survey suggests that people would be willing to quarterly meet for just troubleshooting stuff, and keep it out of the regular meeting. That was one of the answers. Would you be willing to meet quarterly online or in person to do that?
Well, the problem will be past history by a quarter from now. It just happens to be a current thing that's on my mind. So I leave it at that. If we're in a purely social round robin meeting, that's what would be on my mind when my turn comes. But as I mentioned, in round robin, taking a turn, I could just as easily be drawn into anyone else's contribution. That's what I meant by lightning. We're into extended discussion of technique and protocol and values and appropriateness, but in a lightning round robin, it's just like, who are you? Can you introduce yourself, and do you bring any particular interest? Do you have a micro agenda for your part of our round robin? So that's my micro agenda. I yield to others. Let's continue.
Rusty, question there. What you're trying to revive a Kubuntu installation?
Well, it's just a question that I have that could lead to further discussion. But like I say, others may want to just.
Well, I would like to.
If we're not careful, we're going to jump into discussing what my questions are. But
Well, why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
well, because we could spend too long on it, or I might prefer to hear what others.
I'm retired. I've got nothing but time.
Well, Gene, you have actually offered kindly. You have offered to help me in at least during installation times, and I'm definitely going on to install the later Kubuntu on this machine. But I have a few questions. But again, that's just. Let's hear what others might bring to the table today.
All right. Well, we can try to circle back if there's time. And I mean,
Sure,
there could be
circle
plenty of
back if
time
there's
if you
time.
have time after the official end of the meeting.
Streaming is on.
In less than 2 or 3 hours, and have to do it overnight and hope it doesn't glitch and not download properly. So I am currently researching what the latest long-term versions that are available in Linux and see which one might appeal to me. It's a new world for me, being able to make a pick and if just on a whim download a live version and try it out. That's I could not do that before. And other than that, and playing with this solid state drive stuff, which I'm learning about, I've supposedly got a combination M2 SSD plus NVMe SSD arriving today before 7:55 or something. I got it from Newegg. I don't know what's going on with Newegg, but when you order through Newegg, it takes 10 days to get it, and it's not it's not a lot of fun waiting for something that you really want.
It's coming from China.
I don't think so, but maybe. I would think they'd have it in stock.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Sounds like old egg to me.
Sound like rotten egg.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is to that.
Yeah.
So I think that's about all. I'm in the clouds up here. I've got a squirrel making a home on my porch somewhere. He keeps running back and forth in front of the door. I hope he's going after the acorns that are starting to fall down on the deck.
So Pete, if you're in the clouds, are you IFR or VFR?
FR, definitely.
Okay.
That's it for me, Brent.
All right. Thanks, Pete. Santiago?
Hello there. Let me just sit down real quick because I've been standing up because I'm not in a good position right now with my setup. But I haven't really done too much with Linux recently, other than a few I did install Debian onto my laptop recently. Debian, I think it's 12 Bookworm, and I had to configure a few things on it just to make it work properly. But I've done that recently. And also another thing that I guess I'm going to be doing next month is I'll be going to an open source convention in Raleigh called All Things Open. I went there in 2022 to volunteer with a friend of mine. And I'm going to do that again this year. I didn't do it last year, I guess because, she wasn't doing that, so I didn't do it either. But haven't done too much other than those two things. So I guess that's really all I have to say right there. Not too much recently, but yeah. I mean, I hope to be able to get more into Linux too, especially with this convention coming up, learning more and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, look forward to hearing about your experience at the convention.
Yeah.
Dan, I know we heard from you, but what have you
Yeah.
been working on?
Well, I haven't really been working a lot on Linux stuff. I mean, my daily driver is MX Linux, and it's going to be my daily driver probably for forever. I'm really
Glad
happy
you-
with it, and
Yep.
it's based on Antix and Debian, so it's really stable and does what I needed to do. That's really what I like. That's not to say that I'm not also a fan of Ubuntu or Kubuntu even, but I just like MX Linux. But other than that, Brent, I've been pretty active in my course I'm taking. I may have mentioned this. I'm taking an online course in Drupal 10 Expert. In the instructor and the company that's putting that out is out of Madrid, Spain, and so I've got a 6-hour time lag there. He's 6 hours ahead of me. So if I have questions and things I'm encountering in the course, I have to sometimes wait for the answer for the following day. But I am learning a ton, and there's 45 activities in this course, and 2 CATs they're called, which are course assessment tests. And I've already taken 1 course assessment test, and I am 25 activities into 45, which means I'm over halfway, pretty much halfway through the course. And I've got another 3 months left because I'm not paying anything for it. It's like $600 course. And so I need to finish it in 4 months. So I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve. And just Alan would be interested in this. I mean, this course is teaching me things about Drupal, which is kind of somewhat related to Linux, but it's teaching me things about Drupal, Drupal 10 especially, that I never knew about, and so I'm really happy with it. And at the end of this course, I'm supposed to be a Drupal 10 expert, except that you don't have the back end and the front end, but it's like I said, it's teaching me a lot, and I'm staying engaged, and it's keeping me busy. And so I haven't had much time to do anything other than that. I spend most of my day on my Drupal course, so that's all I got.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Gene.
Doesn't have a connection.
Hey there.
Oh, there you go.
I've had fun with installing a network printer. Oh, gosh. Drove me crazy for several days. I don't know if anybody's ever tried to mess with a Canon printer, but they have their own network protocol.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I ran into that, and I had done it before, so I knew it could be done. It wasn't an impossibility, but boy, it just seemed like forever to get it going, and maybe too much information or an admission too far, but I have been recently just suspending my OS rather than logging out or rebooting each time. So that was the problem. I didn't shut down after I installed through Synaptic, installed the Canon network protocol. And so it didn't take. And I tore what few little hairs I had left out for several days, and then finally, just by fluke, shut down and restarted, and whammo blammo, there it was. So, my stupidity cost me a couple of more follicles. Anyway, but that was my fun for the week, and pretty much everything else just seems to work fine. The other thing I had to do, it seems, now there again, I don't know how far my stupidity reached, but it seemed like I had to have it connected into a wired connection before I got an IP address assigned to it. Does that make sense?
I've seen that happen before.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you try using the CUPS protocol?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was cups this and cups that, and you know, went researched the Avahi or whatever that thing is, the Avahi daemon, and also the Netman or Network Manager, whatever it was. Installed all that software, and still got nowhere. So there again, pay the price for my stupidity. But
how often do you install a new printer?
Really, well, this was like 8 years since the last install. So
it's a learning curve.
Yeah, and I guess it's good. Well, it's good or bad depending on how you look at it. That my hardware is so old. But it still works fine. So what can you do? And I think I bought the printer used, so it wasn't. It was. It's several years old. Let's say that. But then again, so am I. So that's pretty much it for me, I guess, Brent.
Well, Gene, I could tell you that two different manufacturer printers that are probably more Linux friendly than most is HP. I've got an HP printer that I just hooked it up, and it's a network printer. It's an all-in-one printer, scanner, fax, and it just connected and had no problem. And then I've got a Brother printer, which is a Brother laser printer. It's a monochrome laser, not a color laser, and hooking it up wirelessly. Connectivity and everything was not a problem at all. In fact, I think the Brother printer is probably the most Linux friendly printer I've ever seen, and it didn't have any issues with it whatsoever. When I connected it up, Linux saw it and connected it and had no issues.
Yeah, I same experience with the Brother printer here. For one, it was the cheapest thing I could find in what I wanted, which was just a monochrome laser printer with a scanner and a flatbed scanner.
Yeah.
And they have a big wide range too. If you want a sheet feeder or there's a lot of different options.
Oh yeah.
And I pulled that out of the box. I plugged it in. I've done it also wirelessly, and it was easy from the panel to get it onto the wireless. But either way, whether wireless or wired, go to my Linux box, printer is there.
Mm-hmm.
It found it, did everything it needed to do. All it does is ask me, when I go to print, do I want to print to it? And it works. Similarly, on a cell phone, if I want to print to it, it's there, it's detected, and I can print to it. So it's really, it's almost, I thought I was going to be in for a fun little challenge when I bought this printer, but no, it was boring. It just worked.
What Linux distro do you use?
I had a same experience of goodness on both Mint and Debian.
Okay.
Gene, does your printer have like a control panel or a configuration menu?
Yeah. And I spent time in there to not much avail because I wasn't getting, this was before I plugged it into the network, I wasn't getting an IP assigned to it. So that once I plugged it into the network, whammo blammo, there again, I've got a network address in the settings of the printer, and I could go from there. So it was just a chicken and egg sort of thing. I didn't have my new eggs in the right old basket.
So is your router the DHCP server, Gene?
You're beyond my ken there, but my router is, yes, the server as far as I know.
The DHCP Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol server, that's what assigns your IP address.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that was it. So, whatever it was, it finally worked. but as I say, my stupidity knows no bounds. So, you can't
When you say
much
you
go by.
plugged it in, Gene, when you say you plugged it into your network, that was a cable from the printer to what?
It was a hard wire from the router to the printer. Yeah.
Router to
USB
USB.
No,
or
hard wire.
Ethernet. Okay.
Ethernet. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was my sad tale of woe.
Well, thanks, Gene. Sam, how are you this month?
I'm good. I'm back in Asheville, and this morning we just got a washer and a dryer, but they told me the valve, the cold water valve, leaks, so I'm going to have to deal with that. I sympathize with the printer problems. I've had my share. I don't network my home computer. Or I don't network my home printers. I just walk whatever machine wants to print. I just walk over and just plug it directly in via the Ethernet cable and print. Otherwise, I've just had too many troubles, and I don't feel like going to the trouble of networking everything.
Well, it's nice to know that I'm not alone, Sam. I appreciate that.
And we use when I do taxes with AARP, I have a Canon printer, but when I do taxes with AARP, they use a Brother laser printer, monochrome,
Mm-hmm.
and they have that one networked, and it works okay as long as you remember to plug the printer into the router, because they have their configuration set up with a static IP address, and if it doesn't have the right address, it doesn't work. And if you don't plug it in, then it may get assigned an address dynamically, and then all hell breaks loose. And we've got a handful of people doing taxes, and they have to print their returns across the network to the printer. But as long as you do it consistently with the AARP guidelines, generally there are no problems. So that's cool. And I haven't done too much with Linux. I did watch Dan Calloway's presentation on Docker, and I don't think I'm going to use Docker, but I found the presentation very interesting. And then as soon as I was done with that presentation, another YouTube presentation came up comparing Docker containers with virtual machines. And I watched a little bit of that presentation, and that was another interesting presentation. It was from a guy who had worked for Microsoft, and he seemed to know his tech. And so if you're interested, you can watch that one too.
What's the guy's name?
I don't remember, but it just came right up. I'll see if I can find that presentation again, and maybe I'll send a link to it. But he was very good. And let's see, what else? I installed a new VPN on one of my machines here, my iPad, and I was thinking that I was going to be able to watch TV, maybe watch TV from New Jersey, but I gather maybe I have to establish a network VPN and basically stream from a machine up in New Jersey. Maybe I don't know. It wasn't obvious to me how I would do that, because I don't have cable TV here. So
Well, some VPNs are, I think, very targeted about where your exit node is. Like, that's sort of what they're for.
Mhm.
I don't have a lot of experience with that. I'm sure other folks do. I have heard that certain providers, Netflix and so forth, are getting more aggressive about blocking VPN exit nodes. But again, that's not something I have a lot of direct experience with.
Yeah, well, with the NordVPN that I bought, there was only one. It just said US, and it just assigned a US VPN. It didn't allow me any flexibility, but it said I could establish a network VPN and load the software on multiple machines. And so I gather with that system, you would probably have to have a server back in New Jersey and then do something like that. But the other thing I noticed is that I was able to stream PBS in New York directly in Asheville, and they didn't seem to care. But as soon as I installed the NordVPN, that no longer worked. I had to remove the VPN in order to get that to work. And that's the only streaming from the Northeast that I was able to do. And I've also noticed that a lot of streaming works in Asheville, but particularly sports programming is specifically blocked. So I have an Amazon Prime account, and back in New Jersey, I can stream local sports. But since I'm down here, I can't stream the Amazon sports of any kind because I don't have it through the local cable provider Spectrum. So I gather I have to buy everything over again in Asheville, which is a bit more than I want to spend at the moment.
Are you streaming over your television or other devices?
I'm streaming over my iPad and my
Okay.
stuff like that.
All right.
It seems a lot easier than trying to hook it up to the TV.
Because we don't have cable, service either, but we use Roku for the television, and the Roku stick is really nice.
But you still have to pay something back to the provider, the cable provider, or pay Roku charges.
For Roku maybe, but not to the cable, not to the provider.
I use an over-the-air antenna. I get 94 channels for free. But I am up a little bit high.
Yeah, you're up high. You're IFR.
So that's it. I just continue to mess around. Sometimes I can listen to the radio, stream radio stuff, and as soon as they put sports programming on, the radio channels get blocked.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah. That's it for me.
Thanks, Sam. Alan?
Relative to our earlier discussion about the meetings, I kind of mentally divided what the subjects into various categories. For example, operating system, distros, and versions. Also hardware, Linux tools and applications, security, programming and languages, and perhaps other topics like backup strategies and applications. In regard to my current, how I use Linux on a pretty much daily basis, it's just a general searching the web for researching various subjects and materials, and I also have gotten into web search engine optimization, and read a couple books about that. I haven't been too successful in increasing my my page ranks on various services. And so that's kind of a challenge. And so that's basically it. I'm still doing a lot of maintaining my cameras, weather stations, my Raspberry Pi single board computers, that sort of thing. And it's gotten pretty good at it. I mean, things break on a regular basis. For example, there was a massive lightning strike up at Mount Mitchell State Park, and people across the valley could see multiple fingers of lightning, hitting the ground up at the park. And it nailed one of my Wi-Fi radios.
Mhm.
So I'm going to have to go up there next Tuesday morning and see if the lightning surge protector, which is basically kind of like a fuse for Ethernet, if that got blown, or whether just the radio itself got hit. But just doing that sort of stuff.
All right. Thanks, Alan. We heard from Arnold in the chat. He is using Mint 21.3 still and thinking about 22.1. Larry, how's it going?
Can you hear me okay?
You're a little soft, but I think we'll muddle through.
My neighbor was asking me, talking about printers. I used to work on printers a fair amount, but not for years now. So my neighbor was asking me to look at her printer, and hasn't happened yet, but she said I told her I wouldn't guarantee anything, but might try to test the Linux if possible. I doubt she uses Linux, probably Windows. And so we'll see. She couldn't even tell me what type of printer it was. She said her son looked at it and she still seems to have problems. So who knows what's going on, but maybe I'll have something to say about printers after that, after I get around to that. The other thing was, I've got a pretty old tablet that I'm using, and maybe 12 years old, something like that. It still seems to work. The battery still seems to charge, and sort of. So I was thinking about getting something a little newer, but so maybe something with some type of Linux on it. If anybody has any suggestions, I would be interested in hearing about it. It seems like some of the older stuff, won't run hardly anything newer software with. I think I heard Leander talking about the way people get rid of computers these days because of security. Hardware won't support security. It's kind of the way it is with this old thing. Won't run any more modern software. So if anybody has any ideas about pretty cheap, or it doesn't have to be cheap, but easy, whatever, tablets, or not a real fan of a lot of something like a Chromebook. Even got a Chromebook, and a lot of stuff uses USB-C charging. I got into that some and wasn't too impressed with it. And I had troubles with it. So if anybody has any ideas or suggestions about tablets, I'm interested. And particularly, I'm interested in Linux, and I'm interested in any kind of Windows stuff, even though sometimes you get forced into Windows whether you like it or not. So that's it for me for right now.
I'm not sure if this is sort of what you're getting at, but for a while I used to install like a custom Android onto the phones I had because of very particular reasons of things I was doing with the phone. I was kind of using them as a home router. you might find similar satisfaction in installing like a custom Android OS to a tablet. It's not something I've done in a long time, and I'm not even familiar with the current offerings, and I can't remember the name of the OS that I used to install. It did have a specific name and website associated with it. But it was one of those things where it was a constant battle with manufacturers on how devices get unlocked so that you can install custom software on them.
Yeah, that's one thing about this old pan digital tablet I have. The company's been out of business for 12 years, and there's really no support. Very little information about it either online. So it's a good reason to try to get something a little newer. I guess it doesn't have to be brand new, but I saw something about I think it was Ubuntu or some sort of Linux distro that has a touch version. I'd be more interested in that than Android, but maybe Android would work too. I just have to look into this some more, I guess, see what I can figure out.
All right. Anyone else got any ideas for Larry?
Would like a Raspberry Pi OS, kind of a stripped down OS work?
Wrong architecture.
Well, I need something that's kind of portable. I don't consider
It wouldn't work on your tablet. It's the wrong
not
architecture.
really. It's not really a portable. Yeah, I don't think it would work on. I don't know. It's something you can find anything about it. Let me know. Never heard of trying that.
All right. Thanks, Larry. I guess that leaves me. I did have a few things to talk about. One thing was my glasses. I have had an increasing difficulty reading my computer screen as my eyes age. I am quite nearsighted, so I can't just plop on a pair of readers. It just doesn't really work right. And I could have done like the normal person thing and actually asked an optometrist what my options were, but why should I do that when I can just like Google it, right? So I found out actually what my best option was, because I didn't want I don't really want like a trifocal or a progressive lens or anything like that. I wanted something that is dedicated for the computer when I'm at the computer, and then when I'm not at the computer, I do whatever works otherwise. So as it turns out, it's very simple to make computer glasses based upon your existing prescription. So if you're nearsighted and have normal, single vision glasses for distance, and you want to be able to see at a shorter range, you basically come up with a number to alter your the diopter of that prescription, and you subtract or really add it to your prescription, because it's a your prescription is a negative number if you're nearsighted. And so you end up with a modified prescription that is good for the defined distance. So for me, I'm at a particular distance to this computer, to this screen rather, slightly higher distance to the screen that is sort of my secondary screen. And so I came up with a number that I thought was a happy medium, and I ended up essentially subtracting, or like I said, I subtracted a negative number. So I added 1.75 to my prescription for both eyes for the spherical portion of the prescription, and sort of rolled the dice. I'm like, okay, maybe these will be computer glasses for me. So I got them from Zenny and cost me all of like $32 for this pair. And lo and behold, it works. I am so much more comfortable in front of the screen with these glasses. Now, as soon as I walk away and look in the distance, I'm like, well, that's not right. So it's no, I don't need a reminder to swap to my normal prescription. But again, it is so much easier to work now with being able to see the screen without doing this to really concentrate on something, or back way the hell up and then not being able to see the small print. I'm very pleased with that. And if anyone else, finds value in that, it's easy to look up what that formula is. I don't have it handy. Obviously,
Brent, are computer glasses anything like beer goggles?
I mean, no, I won't go there. The ladies look just as good on the screen. Yeah, no, it's I'm very, very pleased.
So Brent, I've gone through this glasses thing. I have so many different pairs, and of course I've now gotten my astigmatism partially or almost entirely corrected by having prosthetic lenses in both eyes now. But the question I have is, you name some company. If I go to Lens Crafters, which I've been going to for years, I would not be able to just, by protocol, they will not procure glasses for you without the prescription being routed through your optometrist. But you ordered online and came up with your own add value for the diopters. Are those online lenses also correcting for any amount of astigmatism?
My prescription does have correction for astigmatism. That doesn't change. That's not a factor in this calculation. It doesn't really matter. My prescription is still, again, these glasses are not useful for other purposes.
Yes.
They are useful for reading as long as I keep the phone or book out far enough. I still don't read that way though. I just take my glasses off. But they're dedicated computer glasses. So I'm not sure the correction for astigmatism is vitally important, but it's still getting whatever correction I'm getting for my normal prescription. It's just I'm altering a different value.
So what is the name of the company? And they basically will accept. Can you dole out your own prescription if you decided you wanted? What's the name of the
Zenni don't care. They just take whatever you put in there, and you can sort of assign a date to it if you do want to sort of have it, expire. If you want to be, oh yeah, that's 2 years old, I should probably get a new one. I have found that my eyes have not significantly changed throughout my adult life, so I do not worry so much about getting to the optometrist every year, 2 years, or whatever is recommended. I'm probably overdue, and next time I get glasses, I'll make the attempt to get an appointment and have my eyes looked at, because obviously there's other screenings that happen in an optometrist appointment that are worthwhile. And even if my prescription doesn't change, it'll be worth doing. But Zenni is one such, and it's not the only one. It may not be the best one, but I've had relatively positive experiences. And it's one of those things where it's cheap glasses from China, but you can go to an optometrist that is not associated with like the big conglomerate of who makes the lenses and frames and so forth. But most like Lens Crafters and so forth, you're really just going to you're supporting the same big company. It's essentially a monopoly. I think it's Luxottica. I may have that wrong, but I don't care that I'm screwing over Luxottica by going to Zenni. If it were, it's kind of, if it were the Amazon versus local book dealer thing, I might feel a little bad. But it's not like that at all. And I've not had significant issues with quality from Zenny. And again, like I said, there are other options. I'm not saying that this one's better than others. But the price the best thing about it is the difference in price makes you much more willing to experiment with styles that you wouldn't do otherwise. So now it's like, oh, like these glasses are a little pink. Like I probably wouldn't buy online pink glasses if they cost me $150. These cost me just over $30 with the lenses. So when I go buy glasses from Zenny, I don't generally buy any fewer than 3 pairs at a time. So I always, I don't worry too much about like anti-scratch coatings. If my lenses get scratched, I move on to the next pair. Usually there's wear and tear on the frames at this point enough that it doesn't feel like I'm really wasting money. It's just time. They've worn out. So I always have fresher glasses, both from the standpoint of age and style by buying them online. And again, like I was willing to go through this experiment of, mixing up my prescription to see if it solved the need, and it absolutely did. Like, and if I wanted a dedicated reader with a shorter, closer to my face level of prescription, I could do that too.
I also had good luck with Zenny. That really good website, and you can customize everything and view all the frames and the types of lenses.
They used to have a really not great, like, try it on your face feature, but now, like, the last time I used it, like, you can do it on your phone or on the computer. It's kind of unreal how good it is. It's like yeah, okay, I see you're already wearing glasses, so we'll just use that location on your face to base it on, and then it'll just plop these glasses on your face, and you're like, wow, that looks like I'm wearing those glasses. So that's enough about that. Last meeting, my machine failed like 4 or 5 times during the course of the meeting. It just froze up and I had to reboot. I thought I had the problem licked, in that I could basically, the problem was hardware. I was hoping it wasn't, but it was. I tried moving to Debian just to see if a different OS had fewer issues. If anything, it had more issues. Then I discovered that this series of hardware has issues, in that it's not getting enough voltage or something to make it happy. And it undervolting the GPU with like a hack, and you can do it relatively easy with like the Intel like hardware hacking app, but that's not available in Linux. But there is a guy who out there who nicely wrote a very basic utility to undervolt various components, and by undervolting the GPU, it was better, but it was clear that I was just maybe buying a little time, because it was failing a lot less often, but it was still failing. So yeah, I might get like an hour of use depending what I was doing. If I was doing something particularly graphically intensive, it would still fail. So I realized this hardware is not going to continue to work for me. Rest in peace, box that served me so well. That being said, since the problem only appears under using the GPU, there's no reason this cannot turn into some sort of server. So I'm considering notions for what this guy can do as a local network server now, and it may be back online in some form or fashion. But what I did is I installed recently Debian to my XPS laptop, which had been my sort of my to-go laptop if I needed to work on things when I'm on call or whatever. It most recently actually had been running Windows as a bit of an experiment. It's what it came with, but I did away with Windows. I put Debian 12 on it, and now I got and something I've been knocking around as an idea for a while. I got a USB docking station thing for like $25 online. It's one of those off brands.
You get it from Newegg?
No, actually I got this one from Amazon. But I was a little bit worried, because sometimes those things are quality, sometimes they're not. But this seems to be working out, and it gives me I could go with a higher spec with multiple HDMI ports and more USB ports. But what I really wanted was a single Ethernet port, and I think this one's 2.5 gigs, which is better than anything else I have on anything else. But I only need gig connectivity for what I'm doing. It's got a Ethernet port, it's got an HDMI port, it's got multiple USB ports, and I think it has a SD card reader, which I'll probably never use. And it plugs in, and you can use it for power. So I bought at the same time a nice Anchor power supply that delivers 100 watts. And so now with a single USB-C cable, I basically dock my machine. So if I want to take my computer away, all I have to do is just unplug one thing, which is its power/USB connectivity. And when I want to come back and plug it back in, one cable. So it's great, given that I still use this as a laptop periodically and take it on the road. But it is now my dedicated Linux box, replacing my trusty mini PC. Rest in peace, unless I revive it as a server. So I am very pleased with how that has worked out. And one thing I am doing on the new machine, which is sort of a new hobby for me, and one thing I'm going to say as disclaimer is I have no musical training or talent. I regret that I don't, because I love music, but I decided that for my birthday in August that I was going to get myself a synthesizer of some sort, and so I got myself it's a clone of a Mini Moog Model D. There's you can get a Mini Moog Model D, but it's going to set you back like thousands of dollars. Moog stuff is quite pricey. I appreciate the connection to Asheville and so forth, but the stuff ain't cheap. And I was never going to do something like that. But this type of Moog is very much involved in a lot of music I enjoy. So I thought I would enjoy this analog monophonic synthesizer. And I do. It is just a tremendous amount of fun getting on there and making it make noise. So there's this company called Behringer that basically has, cornered the market in just cloning classic synths and drum machines and other things. But I've had a lot of fun with it, and it has caused me to look to see what Linux can do for music, which is a lot. You can really do a lot of stuff on Linux with music. There are like digital audio workstations that basically have full functionality in Linux. You're not really compromising anything at all. It's very much like most things creative. Mac has the majority of the market. Most people doing music on computers are doing it on a Mac. But I would say Linux is probably coming in second for that now, because it does have so much functionality, and especially if you want to do things on the cheap, you know, you're just dipping your toes in it, there's a lot of options for doing things open source. Then again, those open source options are also available to you on Windows. The nice thing about the open source stuff is there's a lot of plugins that only work on Windows, but they work perfectly well on Wine. So that there's like a whole ecosystem of Windows plugins and a very well developed system for integrating those plugins within Wine on Linux. So it's not like you're not making them work, they just tend to work. So I've been very pleased with looking into that. And like I said, I'm not a musician. I don't pretend to be, and I probably won't become one, but it is fun to play around with such things. And that's making me do things on Linux that I've not been doing. One last quick work thing that is, you know, I always use Linux as my Swiss Army knife at work. And we had this need to basically make part of a website work. We have an appliance that is does our secure email, and that is external functionality. Like we send email to an external party, instead of receiving it as email, they receive a link to log into our secure email site. That obviously needs to work. But the same server was also hosting a site for our quarantine for spam, you know, email that comes in. There was no way to make that work with MFA, and our goal is to make everything work with MFA. And if you can't make it work for MFA, then it's not available outside your network. So to make the one thing work and not the other thing, we would need something that would say, okay, if you're going to this virtual directory is fine. If you're going to this virtual directory, you're going to get a little block message. And so we don't really have a web application firewall or any dedicated device that really could have done that easily. So I just used an Nginx proxy. So I turned up a little Debian machine in our DMZ, very simple configuration. If you're going to this particular virtual directory, you get a block message. And it says, you know, this doesn't work anymore, and you can contact the service center if you have any questions, which they'll basically tell you no. But at least we're giving them an option. And or if you try to go to the secure email site, it works just as normal. So nothing changes for the thing that's supposed to work, but it blocks the thing that's not supposed to work. So it's nice to have something that I can just throw up and configure in any way like that. And that's sort of the second proxy that I've done within our DMZ with Nginx, because it does that role so well. You know, the configuration is like, you know, a handful of lines long to do something like that. All right. Did we have any time to talk about Rusty's issue? Rusty, do you have time to go into what your issue is?
Yes. It's just basically some questions, and with among those that are gathered right now, I'm sure there are some answers. This 1804 machine is Kubuntu, and I was last week, before a 1-week trip, I was somewhere in my browser on that machine. I can't even remember. I should have jotted down what I surely was at some academic site, but I have had a lot of freeze ups of the Vivaldi browser, which I attribute partly to the workspace system they have, which I like. But for whatever reason, I will often get a rogue process going that just takes over and won't quit on the browser. And the only thing I can do is try to kill the browser through the terminal. and then sometimes it seems to just hang the whole system up. Well, I had such an experience shortly after working on tax projects and some of my reading, and I realized, well, okay, I can't get this browser unfrozen. I'm just going to reboot. And when I rebooted, in the boot sequence for Ubuntu 18.04, I get a line that says BusyBox version 1.30, blah, 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 under Ubuntu built-in shell. I had not been aware that BusyBox was involved in the boot sequence for this particular Kubuntu or Ubuntu derivative. But it said in parentheses, init ram fs, init ram fs, hitting the help command. It has a whole bunch of various commands that allow you to navigate in somewhere in the system, but I don't understand, for whatever reason, the OS would not continue through a boot sequence. So I thought, well, gosh, the boot sequence must not be able to proceed because there's some defect on the boot on the boot partition, or it can't establish a file system, whatever is going on. So I figured, well, I'll at least see if this machine is cooked and dead at the level of the hard disk. And so I loaded up. I happened to have a thumb drive for Kubuntu 20.04 that I had procrastinated to install, and I did a live boot up through thumb drive, and I'm able to access that hard drive. So I assume the hard drive is okay. And so my task is going to be to move on to Kubuntu 20.04, at least, maybe 22. But can folks tell me what is going on? What is the meaning of being unable to boot up a Kubuntu system that leaves you hanging at a response that says BusyBox 1.3.1 is available as a built-in shell. I'm sort of paraphrasing here, and I don't expect to be probing around trying to repair things using this list of commands and some terminal screen that's available to me, but I have a prompt that says init ram fs, and that 18.04 will not boot up.
Rusty, just my 2 cents would be move on. Don't worry about trying to fix 18.04.
But
go in and take a backup off of your hard drive if your hard drive is readable. Go in and take a backup and install your 20 or 22, and then just move on.
Yeah, I went ahead and backed up my home directory and some other download directories that had some downloads that I don't want to have to reiterate.
Right.
But does anyone have a working theory for what happened? I'm hopeful that I'll be interested to find out if I have fewer hangups of Vivaldi and all my open web pages that tend to bog down. But it makes me wonder if some other library or some other critical part of the operating system unhappy, and it finally gave up the ghost.
It may be as simple as the version of BusyBox that's on your 1804 is not compatible anymore or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I did a series of complete updates some months back, and it was not my intention to do any further updates. But it was just an odd experience to be in a browser, and I've forgotten what the web page was, but and as I say, I had more than once booted up this machine to overcome lockups or freezing that I could not overcome completely through a secondary workspace terminal. And this was a lockup that occurred that I could not get out of by going to a new workspace and a new terminal. So I just rebooted, and there I was greeted by this incomplete boot.
So most of what I'm reading suggests that it's some sort of disk issue. Is this a spinning disk or an SSD?
Oh, it's a hard disk. Yeah.
I would, I'd be curious to see if like you can read like the smart data to see if it's reporting issues. You could use that BusyBox shell to perhaps do a file system check on the root drive, the root partition, and it may be able to repair it if that is the issue. But I would say only proceed if you want to. If you have other options, and don't want to do it, I'd probably see if I could fix it before I, do whatever else to it. But so, yeah, I would see if the drive is reporting errors, and that would you'd be pretty confident that, yeah, you just need to see.
Live streaming is on.
The boot partition, which I guess is some VFAT file format, and then I do have a separate root partition, and that's where all the the higher level operating system libraries exist. Do you think it's in? So I should do FSCK on at least the boot partition and the root partition. Of course, I have read my home partition, and I have backed up my home partition, thankfully. And what I should do first is do FSCK with some sort of report and taking no action, I guess.
It depends on how cautious you want to be. Yeah, you can basically say, just look, or you can do, repair what you find. I've seen some things suggest that it may have a bad super block, and you can just mount with the backup super block. This is not an area where I have a tremendous amount of expertise. But if,
I've never had any luck trying to mount a backup super block. I don't know if anybody else has tried it too. But.
If data recovery is at all your goal, I would say just go ahead and boot to a recovery USB and try to access the drive in various ways through there. You can try to do like a bitwise copy with like DD or something before you do anything. If you are super concerned about what's on the drive, if you don't care what's on the drive, you can pretty much approach this willy-nilly. But if the goal was data recovery, I'd say boot to something else, clone the drive, and then try to work on the drive after you've done that.
Actually, I'm perfectly happy to just move on to a new install of an operating system that hopefully will work from the hard drive. But the worrisome thing is that this newer Kubuntu is working from memory and from a thumb drive, and the worrisome thing is that this is an opportunity to look at what could be wrong with part of the hard drive, either the boot partition or the root partition. But
Rusty, you could probably run that FSCK off of your USB installation. Just run it on that hard drive, or I like a GUI thing, and there's Ubuntu disks that I don't know if it comes in Kubuntu, it comes in Xubuntu, but it gives you a GUI thing, and you can go up and do a smart test on the drive to see if there's, see if it's an age-related thing, or if it's pre-fail or fail or whatever, and get some useful information that way.
There is a Kubuntu partition a manager, which is something like K-Manager or KDE Manager, which is a spin-off of gparted, I think. But what you're talking about of a smart test is more of a disk diagnostic tool. It's
right.
Not just a partition manager.
No.
Yeah, it's an actual, and you can get as granular as you want. It can do an actual physical test of the drive. I wouldn't recommend starting with that because some of that involves data destruction. But just the kind of the superficial test, just to give you a reading on the drive and see what kind of shape it's in. If it's pretty old, some of the smart data is not too useful.
I would like a pure diagnostic without doing any write over or any rewrites. Just an opportunity.
Just the basic smart test will not do any write overs.
Okay, is smart test a command line from some?
I'm sure there's a command
application
line, I approach it through a GUI.
And it's called Smart Test.
Yeah, it's an acronym, SMART.
Oh.
I don't know what it actually stands for. But.
So is this something that you install from the Ubuntu repository, or is it something that already lives in most Ubuntu distributions?
You can do it if you've got your thumb drive ginned up. Go to Synaptic Package Manager and just Google like Ubuntu disks, and it's a part of that. And that also does a myriad of other things too.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, Rusty Smart is self-monitoring analysis and reporting technology.
Okay.
It's a monitoring system for your hard drive.
So it is something that you install, that you add on to a distribution from the repository.
Yeah, it's just like an interface that lets you read information. It just lets you access the stuff that is available on the drive. You just talk to the drive directly, and the drive has firmware that it can run tests on itself or report errors that it sees when it operates.
Right.
Okay, I think I'm with you, but you Smart. There is a GUI application called Smart, according to that acronym that Dan mentioned. Is it an install? Is it something that you have to install to be able to interact with the hard disk?
You might. It may come with your distro, or you may have to install it separately.
Or you may find that your BIOS even has tools that let you at least read the logs, if not more.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, y'all
Rusty, I'm looking at it, and it says that the one that I'm using is called GNOME, GNOME -disks. But if you try to install that on a Kubuntu thing, it's going to throw up a bunch of
yeah.
one-time install things that are part of GNOME that you probably don't want to mess with.
You know, Rusty,
Yeah. Yeah.
depending on your application or your Linux distro, try running sudo apt-get install smart mon tools.
Yeah, there you go, Rusty. That's a good suggestion.
Smart
Mon tools.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
plural. TOOLS. Smart mon tools.
Okay. Great. So that's from the repository, and Kubuntu should be tolerant and accepting of an Ubuntu application like that. I think that the KDE part of Kubuntu is more about screen display and their own environment of special applications. But the core that is derived from Ubuntu should hopefully tolerate all of those disk tools.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once
Okay.
you install it, then you need to run a smart CTL command to test the drive, and that would be a smart CTL -H, capital H, and then a space, and then dev, whatever your drive designation is, SDA, SDB, whatever it is.
The whole drive, yeah.
Yeah.
HDA.
Right.
Okay, this gives me some directions to go. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just another reason to use Xubuntu.
Yeah, or Mint. I'm not sure why I keep using Kubuntu. But right now it's the only distro I have ready to work with on a thumb drive.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks all. We ran a little long, but I think that was worthwhile. So, what did we say? So next time we will do something. We do not have a defined presentation, but we're going to figure something out. So it's no one else steps up, I will sort that out. But we will, be thinking about what y'all want to talk about, and we'll make it happen.
Okay.
Thanks, Brent.
Sam's making me hungry. All right. Bye, all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye all.
Bye now.
Thanks.
Ice cream.
See you in a month.